How do you feel about a sitting president and the Commerce Secretary going on television to tell people to buy Tesla cars and stocks? Story 1. The guy who ordered for charging stations to be removed is now telling people to buy cars that depend on those charging stations. How do I feel about it? Let me think. Story 2. People who voted for Trump voted for this, period. When we tried to tell them this was who the president is, they just laugh about her off the libs. Welp, fast forward and they don't care. They don't actually care about who the president is or what he shouldn't be doing. In fact, as he said, he could shoot someone on Fifth and they'd shrug it off like it's nothing. He is literally doing everything an oligarch does. And they still think he will somehow improve conditions for them. Look at tariffs, they have caused massive price spikes. They don't really care. Look at Doge. A non-elected, without clearances, foreign national is rummaging through our systems breaking things and they are drooling the word efficiency like it means something. He'll grant things weren't really great with efficiency. But this isn't Silicon Valley. You can't break things and innovate the same with 3 ADM lives. People rely on those systems. The elderly, infirm, etc. And they have no empathy until it affects them via job loss, income loss, etc. They just think the bad ones. And that's it. Their fake news has literally eaten their brains like RFK's brainworm. For the rest of us, it's a crime explicitly forbidden and he and the Commerce SEC should be impeached and removed from office. Period. But there is no longer the rule of law regarding him or his inner circle. It's a done deal. Story 3. Edit. Glad to see the overwhelming response. It's not just me then. The government needs a reality check, period. It's concerning to see government officials publicly endorsing specific companies like Tesla. Their role should be to serve the public interest, not promote individual stocks or products. Transparency and ethical behavior are crucial for maintaining trust in our leaders. Story 4. It's against the law but nothing matters anymore. What's one more morally wrong at best, blatantly illegal action at worst, when faced with the mountain of Trump has done since 2016. Just goes back to this country is turbo because a good 30 to 40 of voting adults are legit brainwashed, morally corrupt, terribly misinformed, outright stupid, or borderline to full-on evil. And the troglodytes that are in power, along with the billionaires bending the knee and sucking the middle class dry, are taking advantage of that populace, and are full-blown evil people. Story 5. It's uncommon for government officials to publicly promote a particular company, as it can lead to concerns about conflicts of interest or bias. Such actions may erode trust in their impartiality and blur the distinction between their public responsibilities and private interests. Story 6. When you spend 4 years on Facebook posting that EV needs a 20K battery every 2 years and won't run in winter, but your orange leader just told you to go out and buy one. Story 7. Can you please not interfere with the president when he's trying to manage this country? I'm tired people getting in the way of Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho. Story 8. The number one thing for me is not how ridiculous and awful it all is, it's how many people are still okay with it. I just don't understand how anyone could not find that incredibly pathetic and inappropriate. Story 9. Dems need to brand Trump admin as Republican, not MAGA. After the dust settles on Trump chaos, Republican machine will disown the Trump years as MAGA and will claim innocence. Story 10. Well, America voted for a TV actor. Trump loves to do an ad. If you have a business and donate enough to him, do one for you. Corruption at its finest. Story 11. Besides the fact that it's illegal to do so, it's just pathetic is what it is. Elon Musk is a whiny crybaby incel that needs validation. His stock is dumping because he sieg-heiled on live TV and then later joked about it while actively dismantling the US government. Story 12. Amazing how Tesla went from a welfare green worthless car company under Obama to a national treasure that has to be protected under Trump. The GOP loves to be hypocritical and forgetful. Story 13. This fat doofus is simultaneously tanking the economy and asking us to buy 70,000 cars. Even if I wanted a Tesla, I don't. This buffoon is doing everything he can to make sure I don't have money for one. Story 14. Call out the people claiming Biden did this first with the Jeep thing. Biden pushed for zero-emission vehicles with his executive order. Trump did this because his handler's stock price was crashing. Story 15. It's completely illegal on multiple levels. Hatch Act and stock manipulation, just to name a couple, but we're in the post-law and order United States now, so those hats just do whatever they want. Story 16. I am not shocked or surprised, but I should be. This is not normal, but it feels like it is. I am so overwhelmed with the amount of insane that is going on, that like this doesn't seem that bad to me, which I am sure is the entire point, and it's working. Story 17. Well, I am quite off-put by the blatant ethics violations and apparent non-existence of enforcement strategies for ethics in elected offices. The silver lining is the fact that the stock dipped during both endorsements. Story 18. It's weird that conservatives want to keep the government out of capitalism, but this administration has been inserting the government into free trade to a degree that makes me feel they are closer to communism than the left. Between the surge of government support for Tesla, a history of promoting certain brands, and the decision to rely heavily on tariffs, we are further and further from being a capitalist country. Story 19. Hatch Act, illegal. Nothing is done by the book in this nothing but grift administration. Oh, and every Tesla truck is up for recall because it falls apart on the freeway and is a danger to other cars. Story 20. I'm sure if a Democrat did it to benefit a large donor, they'd all be shouting off with their heads. I don't care what party you are a part of. I don't even care if I voted for you. This is extremely unethical and a gross misuse of an office. Every elected official on all sides who is letting this go unchecked is a disgrace. I'm sick of about 90 of people holding office right now. Story 21. It pisses me off Trump, his entire administration. Quite frankly, they're all selfish, greedy pieces of, guess insider trading will be okay for all appointed executive branch folks as well. Story 22. I cannot imagine a single conservative being able to successfully defend this action. The level of unprofessional, anti-American, partisan bullshit this administration is pulling is out of pocket, and every American should be appalled. Story 23. It's disgusting. Probably illegal in like 5 different ways, but it doesn't matter because the Trump admin has been leaning into crazy and casually disregarding the law so much that we're desensitized to it. That's the goal. Normalize this absurdity so it's not as noticeable when they take bigger swings. We, the people, can't actually legally do anything about it in time to be effective beyond actively going after the softer target that is Tesla until it's forced to take more drastic measures like separating from Musk, which would also put his control of Twitter X directly in jeopardy. A massive blow to the right. Strongly worded letters and rants online ain't doing. Peaceful protests by designate doing. Going through courts and typical bureaucratic methods of resistance are all too slow or weak. The folks holding office representing us aren't doing on one side and the other is in on it and doing exactly what their ignorant brainwashed constituents voted for out of blind hate and spite. Some of them are slowly waking up to what the rest of us have been warning against, but the others are doubling down as this administration also ramps up disinformation efforts. The Dems in office specifically are, as usual, too chicken shit and focused on their careers to say or do anything that actually rocks the boat too much. They're obsessed with this image of diplomacy and decency and bipartisanship to a fault. They should be meeting fire with fire, but they're meeting it with passive-aggressive signs and colorful jackets while everything they've always claimed to stand for is being torn down around them. Just truly feckless, pitiful. All of it is an important lesson in how weak our government is to actual abuse probably, because this level of it was never expected. Also a lesson in how gullible and, quite frankly, stupid so much of the US population truly is to allow themselves to be whipped up into this reactionary regressive frenzy by people seeking and abusing power for their own self-interests. A lesson for the left on the importance of rallying behind opposition to a genuine threat, not nitpicking your one and only ticket out of it over complete bullshit and progressivist measuring, fully undermining a campaign and costing your side one of the most important elections in recent history. A car company ad is the least of our concern. Or Ukraine's concern or Palestine-Gaza's concern, or anyone else directly impacted by the actions of this administration. And it's no exaggeration to say those of us who aren't killed off by those actions or whatever plague comes along next will probably be dealing with the effects of all this for decades, generations. Even if it stopped immediately somehow, significant damage has been done in only a few months and that brainwashing of the people supporting it will remain or probably even worsen. Story 24. Every day, I am more and more surprised that Republicans just don't give about all the stuff that they always say they care about. Price of eggs, gas, produce, nope. Treatment of military, vets, or hard-working social servants, nope. Police, nope. Respect for the Constitution, nope. Unelected officials with unusual amounts of power, nope. Intelligence gathering and remaining a superpower, nope. Farmers, nope. Treating the office of POTUS with dignity, nope. Nope and nope. Remember how wearing a tan suit was unbecoming a president. Story 25. Just some more evidence that Musk sits above Trump. Why else would he try to protect this specific Musk-owned company while he thrashes the rest of the economy? I hope it gets worse for Tesla. I wouldn't even buy one with no consideration for politics whatsoever. They are a scummy company with quality control, customer service, and the only new car they have put out in 5 years is over $100K and it is absolute garbage. Story 26. Well, it's absolutely illegal and the very definition of an impeachable offense, but Republicans have decided that corruption and the destruction of the United States as a democratic republic is perfectly acceptable if it means they can rule the country instead of serving it. Story 27. I've never been more embarrassed to be from the US. Decorum doesn't exist any longer. One of the 2 major political parties is okay with their own members smearing literal on the walls of our Capitol building getting pardoned for it. A self-appointed South African apartheid apologist is gutting every federal agency rightfully investigating him and using his media platform to gin up unrest around the world to justify his own shitty worldview. The president and his cabinet are some of the most wealthy and corrupt people to ever set foot in Washington, D.C. And that's saying something. Dagobah has nothing on the quagmire that our nation's capital will be by the midterms, and any protests or significant resistance will be met with an insurrection act or something just as vile, allowing constitutional sheriffs and federal contractors to pretty much disappear whomever they choose for whatever they choose. I've never seen the people of this country act so selfishly in regards to their fellow citizens in my half-century. The idolization of wealth has become near comical if it weren't so sad looking at you, prosperity gospel. Story 28. Assuming the US survives this president, I hope this makes it clear that we need much stronger checks on power and corruption in all branches of government. Story 29. Shouldn't all the other car companies sue the Trump administration? Can they, or are they too scared? Seems insanely unfair to anyone working under the name Ford, Chevrolet, Chrysler, Honda, etc. My dad sold cars for a living and giving the competition free commercials is absolutely a disgusting use of our tax dollars. Story 30 Trump and Musk, but these annoying leading questions too. Karma farming I feel, like the Hatch Act exists after they took office, and the Logan Act existed before they took office, but the people who swore an oath to the Constitution don't take that oath seriously enough to restrain one of their own to its rules. That's how I feel. Story 31 The corruption is so obvious and blatant. It's embarrassing. Why won't his supporters call him out on it? They're the only ones that matter to him right now anyway. They won't even hold him to the lowest standard. Story 32 Just another display of the laws don't apply to me behavior that we've come to expect from this loser and cabinet of losers. Can you imagine how the Republicans would be screaming if Biden had done anything like this? Story 33 I wish people didn't think that putting a convicted felon that ran sham businesses in office was a cool idea just because he's rich, had a reality TV show and said out-of-pocket things. Story 34 Probably about the same way I feel when the pre-election Republican dialogue was nobody voted for Kamala. Why is she here? And the post-election dialogue is Musk is cutting waste for all of us. Why are you ungrateful? It's hypocritical, obviously, but no, they don't care. They won't care. There is nothing you can do to make them care. You can't talk sense into one of the most proudly uneducated groups in the history of mankind. It isn't possible because any logical or intelligent points you make are immediately refuted by emotional reaches despite facts not feelings being a mantra. The easy answer: nobody wants to go to jail for acting up and nobody wants to be made example of. America is in one of the dumbest catch-22s I have ever witnessed. The only way forward is violence, but I don't want to fight a war. I want to play video games, man. Story 35 Outrage is a very relative thing. Back in 2001, then SECDEF Don Rumsfeld made a speech where he said that the Pentagon was unable to account for some $2.3 trillion it had been handed by the taxpayers. Now that speech normally would have caused much bigger fallout, and a lot of yelling. Except that he delivered it on September 10th, and it kinda got knocked off the front page the next day. So this, which would have been despicable and outrageous any other time, is just lost in the overwhelming blitzkrieg of fascism and bad behavior from the administration, and that's probably what they're going for. Even the legit press can't keep up with the suckage. Story 36 The Commerce Secretary is a waste of space. The guy extremely unsurprised that the crookedest piece of to ever curse the White House and his crooked piece of cronies are doing crooked. I would be far more shocked if somebody said Donald Trump went for 6 consecutive hours without breaking a single law. Story 37 This is an abomination to the ideals of governance and in civic duty. Absolutely absurd that this is allowed, and I thought that the right-wing base would finally turn the corner, and maybe some have, but most have somehow been able to rationalize this and continue their cult-like worship. Have lost all trust in the supposed checks and balances of the system. Story 38 As an American, the government feels compromised, and it makes me feel incredibly sad and frustrated. I would very much like to see change towards a mature government that understands the needs for checks and balances and can have difficult conversations in public. Consequently, some part of me is wondering whether everything will fall apart, or if we'll just become a more dystopian society with less moral guidance for a long time without ever really needing to find grounding that appeals to both logic and morality. I think this is the most likely case, unfortunately. Which makes me also think that maybe we do just end up ceding our dominance to AI once embodied agents become competent enough, as if we allow our animal urges to dominate our governance, then we kind of deserve to be dominated by beings which are more foundationally rational. IDK though, it's all such a mess at this point. Maybe some other country will figure it out and the US will lose superpower status. In pretty much all of my premonitions, the US isn't going to be in a better position. Something about careless actions driven by shallow ideologies just doesn't inspire me to believe we have skilled pilots at the helm. Story 39 I feel horrified, but what is far more horrifying is that my parents, who raised me to know what it means to value democracy and freedom, support the administration who do this. Story 40 They could buy billboards on every street, commercials on every break, ads on every video and flyers raining down from helicopters. 247, I'm still not buying his car. Story 41 That anyone who ever says the phrase both sides are the same in my presence again had better be able to provide hard, detailed and credible evidence of any Democratic president pulling anything like this, or be prepared to be shut down as aggressively as possible due to how sick I am of hearing that bold-faced lie. Story 42 Every other company that makes electric vehicles should sue the out of Trump and the US government for disparity of treatment. Using an official government position to peddle vehicles should be illegal. Story 43 It's pathetic. I wish people of a certain political affiliation could understand that although I loathe Trump with every fiber of my being, it's not a politically targeted comment. The dude is and has been a mass oven bronzer, with a soul comprised of a rat turd and mold slurry. He's been a human pop-up ad, and a joke for decades. Who the goes bankrupt running a casino, no wonder his brother drank himself to death. Story 44 Crony capitalism is awful for everyone. Eve heard people say, well, it's always been this way, and no, it has not. Let's please not normalize this. It is not normal. Story 45 But didn't Elon say in an interview that he wouldn't recommend people to buy Teslas or the stocks, but he said people don't listen and do it anyways, so that's hella contradicting. Story 46 Pretty good actually, because I already knew they were way more corrupt than that before, so that isn't any big new worse thing than 100 others before it, but meanwhile it shows they're scared, which is excellent news. Story 47 I feel like Trump supporters are stupid and I got cheated out of a decent future and I would rather die than bring kids into this dystopian hole. I feel betrayed by parents who said they supported me when I told them about my grandfather abusing me but then turned around and voted for a creep just like him. I feel angry. I feel a lot of things. Story 48 1. Market manipulation or influence. 2. Conflict of interest. 3. Violation of federal ethics rules. 4. Public trust issues. So in short, it would be inappropriate, potentially illegal, and deeply problematic. Story 49 I feel like there is bound to be corrective action in the near future. Something has to give. Cooking the frog requires doing it slowly, too quick, and the frog notices. Our frog is aware of goings-on and looks like it's getting ready to try and jump out of the pot. Story 50 just a little crime to distract everybody from the attempts to literally send people to concentration camps. Sorry, I meant deported, but not to another country, just an offshore prison, so that's all right then. Story 51 when voting president. I have historically voted Republican, until 2012. I don't think there is a party that aligns with my values any longer. I've changed, and my God they have changed. I always wanted to vote for a person of integrity and honor. Someone who wouldn't draft my children to die in a war that was senseless and in defense of corporate profits. Someone who was trying to help us. This president's behavior is never that. I am ashamed of us right now. We are a country that produced John McCain, Bob Dole, and George H.W. Bush, men who served in the military and tried to do good. And instead we get this clown, us all, clear favorism, and Americans are clearly impotent. Story 52 in the United States. The market is meant to determine winners and losers. This is a clear example of government overstepping its boundaries. I believe this goes against the principles of a fair market, and the inevitable outcome will be fewer and poorer choices for consumers due to this type of government interference. Story 53 those specific people doing it disappoints me but does not surprise me at all. That 13 of America actively supports these people, their voters, and another 13 is okay with them non-voters is what really saddens me. Story 54 this is the kind of corruption Republicans were losing their minds over saying Democrats would do, so of course when they do it, it's fine, always projection and telling on themselves when it comes to the GOP.